Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Paper again. I have done an entire month straight of videos, and I am ending that off with this January 2025 currently inked, which admittedly I am recording on uh, December 31st. We are hosting people for New Year's Eve as we do, and they will be spending the night. So I wanted to get this pre recorded so that it is kind of on autopilot, just good to go. Now it is 12:18, and I picked up this little beverage, sparkling strawberry juice beverage. This is non-alcoholic, but it is high in sugar, and I typically don't um, eat or drink things with this much sugar. Um, but I wanted to give this a try. Yum. Ooh, yum. That reminds me of candies that my great-grandparents used to have when I was little that were little strawberry candies with juice in the middle or like a syrup in the middle. And the wrapper was a strawberry and it was twisted at the top and the top was green. Oh, that's delicious. That would be a nice little treat every once in a while. Okay, so a few days ago, I posted a video with a collection of inks to consider for the month of January. And I did get some votes. And I did also get my husband and my son to vote. So this is what it looks like on the back end as part of setup. So I write the inks and then I do this little swatch. And then based on these little swatches, I put together the order of the swatch that you all see. And then I jotted down what people voted for. And I ultimately had my husband and my son vote because it brought it to an even 10. And that made creating the percentages really easy. So here's a little sneak peek. I do have down here the inks that are going to be for this month, as well as the pens that they're paired with, which is why I'm covering it. So now let's move on over to my new Hobonichi A5 blank paper notebook with Tomoe River paper. I'll use that to settle my hand on. Now, I did write this with my TWSBI White and Rose Gold Eco RG pen. When I did a recent update on my fountain pen collection, which also posted just a few days ago, I realized that this pen was not with all my other pens. And it took me a moment to recall where it was, and it was with my holiday cards. So I addressed the envelopes with this pen. It has Diamine Season's Greetings in it, I believe, which is a really lovely jewel toned, and it has this blue shimmer. And so I used that to do the header right here. So I did find it. It will be going into my to be cleaned pile or container. Okay. Now, here we go. The first pen, and this was actually a recommendation from one of the viewers who commented because I had invited people to share which pen they thought it would be a good pairing for if they had an awareness of my collection, and somebody took me up on that. So this is the Esterbrook Petrified Forest. Esterbrook SD in Petrified Forest with an extra fine nib. I have talked before about the fact that this extra fine nib is slightly different than my other Esterbrook extra fine nibs. I prefer this one. I don't know exactly what is different about it, but there is something different. Okay. So I'm just trying to be delicate because an extra fine nib is not going to be a gusher of ink, and this is kind of a larger swatch, and I don't want the paper to tear or pill. So, like I said, Estabrook, SD Petrified Forest, in extra fine. This is a steel nib, and this is inked up with Diamine Sleigh Ride. So this is one of the inks for the selections for January that was a little out of the box or out of pocket. It did not belong, but there's something about the base red with the green sheen that got me, and I really was itching to write with this ink. So that's how I ended up on my list. All right, next up, not surprising, my Pelicon Sovereign in white tortoiseshell M400 with an extra fine nib. It is a 14 karat gold nib. Look at that cuteness, that little tiny nib. For a little nib, it does pack some power. For an extra fine, it is, I guess you could call it a little bit of a gusher, if you're thinking in that extra fine world. So just looking at how the ink is going down in this little swatch compared to the one above, it is wetter. So this is the Pelicon M400 with an extra fine 14 karat nib. And even if you look at the line width, it is a thicker line width. And this is inked up with Yoseka Ceramics. Tang Me Say Blue. I will, that's a little messy, but I know what it is. I will just put a little plug out there that at the end, I'm going to pull out some other types of paper that I pre-swatched on to look at how these inks are sitting on those different types of paper. All right, when I went through my fountain pen collection, there were some entry-level starter pens that I had purchased early on in my YouTube journey. Actually, no, this is one that I purchased before I started YouTube, now that I think about it. I think I might have purchased this in 2019, maybe. Gosh, I wish I could remember. Anyway, so it is the Lami LX. So this was the fancy version of the Safari. It does have a little gold top up here, has a gold clip. It is a rose gold body, and the nib is black, which was a little bit different for the Lami Safari. And this is inked up with Diamine Wilted Rose. That would be really nice to match this pen with a pink. It's not an exact match, but close enough. So Lami LX in rose gold. And this as well has an extra fine nib. And this has Diamine Wilted Rose. Okay, moving right along, the next pen is the Radius Settimo in the colorway Marmo Bianco. I will continue to say this to me looks like little coffee beans, and that just brings me so much joy because I love coffee. And it's got really nice gold accents. I love the pattern around the cap band right here. I love how the ends, the finials, come to a point, which is just really neat. It's, yeah, love this pen. Now, this pen came with a fine nib, I believe. I'm fairly confident. But I ordered, at the time that I ordered this pen, I also ordered a custom grind because they had a sale for Fountain Pen Day, and then they also had that as an option, and it was a grind that I had been wanting to try. So I went ahead and snagged it. Oh, that spacing is off, man. Well, it is what it is. Okay. Marmo Bianco. And this has a mini cursive smooth italic nib. And I inked this up purposely with Birmingham Pen Company, Pennsylvania Fieldstone, because this writes wetter, and I thought that that would really highlight all of the properties that I love this ink for. I like the pink. I like the dark, almost brown, grayish color that comes through in the more saturated areas and will also halo some of the letters. And it just is so lovely, so lovely. And I will say, when I go through the other papers, it's really interesting to see what this ink does on other papers. Okay, next up, this is one that I kind of disclosed I likely would bring forward into January because I was already enjoying it so much and wanted to continue using it. And thankfully, the people who voted seem to generally agree with me. And I want to say this ink got 40% of the votes. And there were only 2 inks that scored higher than this one. So thank you all for supporting me. So this is the Leonardo Momento Zero. And this is in a new pattern that was launched as a collaboration with Stilo on Steel and Leonardo for Black Friday. And this is called the Kintsugi. I might be mispronouncing that. If I am, I apologize, but Kintsugi. And this is based on the old Japanese art of repairing cracks and breaks in ceramics with gold, and then that became more beautiful. So it's looking at the concept or the premise of finding beauty in the mistakes, finding beauty in the cracks. And I just love that so much because even in my own personal journey, I'm working on shifting myself from viewing myself as damaged to viewing myself as healed. So yeah, this pen was a really nice representation of my journey over the last couple of years. So like I said, it's the Leonardo Momento Zero. Kintsugi, and this is an extra fine 14 karat nib. I bumped it up to the 14 karat because after the 10% sale for Black Friday, it fell just below my Christmas gift budget, and this was what I wanted for Christmas. So that's what I got, and I've been wanting a non-flexed 14 karat nib from Leonardo just to be able to experience that, and I am not disappointed. So Diamine, good tidings. Okay. So those are my 5 pens that I will be using for journaling this month, etc. And then I also have 2 pens that I'm going to be using for a little bit more everyday things like my planner, my budgeting, etc. And I'm going to do a smaller swatch for both of these, primarily because they both have really fine nibs and they don't put a ton of ink down at one time, which is why I use them as an everyday carry pen. And when I was doing my setup for this, it was almost painful trying to do the same size swatch as everything else. So I am going to do just a small swatch for this. Ultimately, it is a black ink. It's nothing super special other than it's an archival ink. So this is Sailor Pro Gear, and it's in white, rose gold, and this has a Sailor fine nib, and it's a 21 karat, but a Sailor fine nib is much like an extra fine or ultra fine or needlepoint for other pens. Okay, and this is inked up with, predictably, oops, no, that was right, Diatramentis, well, ish, Document Ink Black. And I just want to take a second and point out, look at this. And it almost has some purples coming through. It's just such a fun ink. All right, and last but not least, and I did have somebody comment that they were surprised that Marley was not included in my January ink planning. And a big part of that is I knew it was already going to be in this pen, so it wasn't needed to be in that sample. So this is the Opus 88 in Halo, or the model is Halo in the colorway blue because the section is blue. And this has an extra fine steel nib. There's a chance my dog might start barking because there is a package being delivered. And she thinks that she's guarding the house, that little nugget. All right, Diamine. Marley. I almost wrote the word halo. Interestingly, so thankfully, you all give me information, which is so helpful. I recently had a viewer give me some information about using sheening inks on your pens and not keeping them in there for more than 5 to 7 days, which was really informative. When I went through my Diamine ink vent unboxings each day, I swatched Marley, and I could not for the life of me figure out why a Christmas ink was named Marley. And thankfully, many of you chimed in and gave me that information. And I learned it's based on Jacob Marley from A Christmas Carol. And then for Christmas Eve, my son and I played a Christmas Jeopardy, but it was actually Jeopardy. So Jeo and then the word parody. But one of the questions was about who was the first ghost or the first spirit that visited Scrooge, and it was Jacob Marley. And because Jacob Marley is now the only name besides Scrooge that I know from Christmas Carol, because I have not seen that movie since I was very little, I guessed it and got it right. So thank you all. We ended up wagering all of our points on the final question and got the question wrong. So, but prior to that, we were in the lead for the whole game. Okay, so keeping this swatch on this side, I am going to pull over. This is a Clairefontaine Rhodia paper. And with the Rhodia paper, I do often notice that the sheen does not come through very prevalently. So if you look at, I'm going to move this around right here, but you can just see all the sheen over here. But if I just move this page, you can see the sheen on Good Tidings, and you can see the sheen on Sleigh Ride. So if you are somebody that uses sheening inks, probably Rhodia paper likely is not your go-to. The Pennsylvania Fieldstone is slightly muted on the Rhodia paper, meaning the haloing that I'm seeing here, I don't see as much here. Everything else looks, you know what, I think generally on the Rhodia paper, I'm seeing Tang Me Say Blue and Wilted Rose both look slightly darker on Rhodia, as does Marley. Obviously, document ink black is black, and it's going to look the same on both. Now I've got the Life Bank paper. And I just want to point out the Pennsylvania Fieldstone almost has more of a pop of a brighter pink. It does show sheening. I don't think it's as prevalent. Actually, I shouldn't even say I don't think. It is not as prevalent as it is on the Tomoe River paper. So again, I'm a fan of Tomoe River. To my eyes, Tang Me Say Blue and Wilted Rose look pretty much the same on both papers, as does Marley. And you can see on this, I did the full size, and this is the one that really kind of hurt my soul to do. And I just thought, if I try to make this swatch any more pronounced or filled in, I'm just going to pull at and pill the paper. So that's where I switched it up. And then I'm actually going to rotate these a little bit. The last paper comparison that I will pull out, moving my little strawberry drink, is Cosmo Air Light. Now, this is a paper that is not being manufactured anymore. However, you can still find it. The last I checked, it was still available on Galen Leather. Shipping can be a little bit high, so I would recommend, if you know someone else that's into stationery or leather products, see if they'll go in on an order with you so that you can split the shipping. I know for myself, I have a local pen friend that I would reach out to see if they wanted to go in on an order. So I'm just going to move this around a little bit. The sheen is coming through very well for both. I mean, look at that. And I want to say, actually, no. Are they both extreme sheens? Good Tidings. Yeah, this is an extreme sheen. And I'm pretty sure Sleigh Ride is as well. I could probably actually just... Nope, not here. Anyway. I do like Pennsylvania Fieldstone more on the Cosmo Air Light because you're getting more of that almost grayish haloing coming out in the pooled areas. The other thing I generally notice about Cosmo Air Light paper is that the ink seems to settle a bit more on the top of the page, almost spreading out from where you're writing with it. So even here you can see a little bit more of the individual pen strokes than you can right here, and it just pools a little bit more, I think, because it's sitting on top of that paper. Same with the Wilted Rose. You're not seeing as much of the pen strokes. There's a little bit more blending. And the Marley, I thought just really looked a little bit more complex than it did on some of the other papers. So I really liked that. I will pull over. This is another Hobonichi. This is the kind of old original Hobonichi notebook, and I will even say original, meaning it is from a few years ago. So I think this has the original Tomoe River paper. And I just did a little swatch here just to make sure I liked the order of how they were going down. And look at that Pennsylvania Fieldstone. It is gorgeous. And then even the Marley, you're able to see a little bit of that chromo shading coming through. And certainly sheen, sheen, sheen. All right. So those are my pens and inks. And I want to thank those of you that shared your ideas of which inks you would choose. I especially want to thank those of you that even offered up some pen suggestions. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate the engagement in this little Joy in Pens and Paper community that we've created. And I am so pleased to close out another year and to start a new year and a new chapter with this channel. So with that, I am going to sign off, and I hope that this first day of 2025, you have a wonderful day. I hope you are rested and ready to tackle another year. And I hope if you do celebrate New Year's Eve in a little more of a formal way, I hope that you made some really great memories that will carry you through at least the next couple of weeks. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I appreciate the time that you have spent with me this morning or today, if you're not watching it right away, which you might not. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye.